Hello, welcome to my next video in my series on preparing for a presentation. In the previous video, which you will find in the newsletter playlist within my YouTube channel, I talked about structure and the importance of imposing some structure on all your content, A, so that it's easier for your audience to follow along and understand, and B, so it's easier for you to remember and deliver. Now, in the last video, I mentioned a couple of potential quite simple structures. This time, I want to talk about something slightly more complicated, or slightly more complex, I should say. And that is basing your presentation around the three things that you would like your audience to remember. Most people will struggle to remember more than three things from your presentation, quite frankly. Doesn't matter how good your content is. If you were to ring an audience member a couple of days later and say, what do you recall from that presentation? Most people would probably struggle to remember more than three macro things or micro things. It's funny, some people will remember big themes, other people will remember really small details. But I think you can aid people's memory by structuring your presentation around the key messages you want them to take away. And I think three is the absolute maximum. You could just do it around two. One is a bit odd because actually you're sort of going to need some structure within that. But if you know that there are three things that you need people to remember within your presentation, use that as the basis of your structure. So for example, if you are presenting at a meeting internally, you need people to understand the budget, you need people to understand the people issues that we've got going on at the moment, and you need people to understand the outcomes we're working towards. Use those three things as the structure for your presentation. So you're going to open, and then you're going to structure. We're going to go to the first one, so budget. So I would suggest you might have a headline slide that says budget, or you're going to write budget up on your whiteboard, something like that. You're then going to explain why the budget's so important. So you're going to give it some context. You're going to explain what it is about the budget we need to explain, and then you're going to offer evidence to support that assertion. So you're going to show, I'm going to guess with the budget, you're going to show some figures, some statistics, maybe a spreadsheet, something like that. You may be going to use some case studies, some examples. Maybe you're going to use some projections. All the evidence that you need to make sure that people remember that the budget is important and that they understand it. You then need to signpost to the second section. Now, a signpost can be verbal, moving on, I now want to talk about, or it can be visual. A click onto the next slide and the next headline, or it could be the turning of a page on a whiteboard, on a flip chart, or wiping something off a whiteboard, whatever it is you're using. A really good signpost and a good way to close off each section is to say, now, I'm finished talking about the budget. Do we have any questions on this section before I move on? You deal with those questions, and then you move into the next section. So that next section was people. So you're going to have a big headline slide that says people. And then you're going to talk about why it's important that we understand people issues, concerns, problems, potential that you've got going on at the moment. And you're going to offer evidence for that. So it might be that you're going to offer some stories, case studies, examples, testimonials, all those sorts of evidences that you might need to prove that people, or this people issue you need people to understand is important, and to make sure they've got time to take it all in. You're not going to refer back to budget by this point. That part is closed, and you're not yet going to talk about outcomes. This is purely about people. So you actually need to really concentrate on this main point. Once you've offered all the evidence you have around the people section, you signpost. So again, you might take questions, or you just signpost visually and verbally, and then you move on to point three. So in this case, outcomes. Why is it important that we understand the outcomes? Here is a list of our potential outcomes. Here is some evidence for why these outcomes are important, how we're going to achieve them. And then you close and you go into your closing section. And we'll talk about openings and closings in a different video. If you are interested in trying this structure and you'd like a bit more detail, a couple of options for you. First of all, there is a whole chapter on this structure, which I normally refer to as the Fishbone Template, because I have a template for it. And that's in my book, The Authority Guide to Presenting and Public Speaking, which you will find on Amazon or Audible. Or if you want to drop me an email, steve@stevebustin.com, I will email you copies of the Fishbone Template, which is based around this idea of three main points. And I can send you a filled in version and also a blank, which you can then print off and use. So get in touch, say steve@stevebustin.com if you would like copies of that or get a copy of the book. And in the next video, I'm going to be talking about a slightly different type of structure, a non-linear structure for your presentation. So as usual, if you have come to this video via my email e-zine, then while you're out on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button so you see all my video content. Do also click through my other videos in the playlists on my channel. If you found this via YouTube, if you look in the comments below, you will find details of how to subscribe to my e-zine, which will give you lots of great content every other week. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.